Hi everyone, I am Sivaji. I have been teaching history for the past 17 years. I have been associated with history for so many years, first as a student of history, then as an aspirant for Civil Services Mains, with history as one of my optionals, and later as a teacher of history. So with this kind of experience, with this kind of association with the subject of history, I feel I have a legitimate authority to speak about the pros and cons of history as an option for Civil Services Mains examination. To begin with, I have to clear certain clouds. I want to bust a few myths about history optional. The first and foremost myth is history subject is not scoring. It is not scoring. It is not a winning optional. Not scoring and not a winning optional. This is a famous accusation thrown at history optional. Compared to other popular optionals, it was a little bit dicey. It is not that good for scoring well in mains examination. That is a regular accusation thrown at history optional. But facts are sacred. Let us go through the history of the history at civil services. From the beginning of the civil services examination until today, history has been consistently performing well. It has been rewarding success to the serious aspirants, period. Very recently also we have an all India topper with history optional. Look at the top 20 rankers list, or top 50 rankers list, or top 100 rankers list. History has always been there. Regardless of these complaints, regardless of these myths, history has been performing well. It has shown a remarkable consistency. It has been consistent. It has been consistent. Maybe there are other optionals which might occasionally shine as the most popular optionals or the scoring optionals. When I started my preparation of civil services, everyone was talking about anthropology. Anthropology was the most happening option late 90s and early 2000s. The syllabus was very limited. It is very easy to master. It is very easy to satisfy the evaluator. Evaluation is also very liberal. So they are rewarding very liberally marks. So everyone was in awe of anthropology. Everyone was trying to take anthropology as one of their optionals. And after years, when I was taking my final attempt, I was giving my final attempt for civil services, suddenly geography came to the fore as the most popular option. After a while, it's public administration. After a while, again anthropology. After a while, sociology. After a while, again geography. And after a while, recently, again political science and international relations. PSIR became the most popular optional. It has been consistently scoring well in the recent past. We don't know how far this winning streak for these popular options would continue, because UPSC is known to spring shocks, not surprises. Whenever an option is attracting large number of aspirants, UPSC is known to throw a grim glance at that kind of optional, and it will try to snub it in the next attempt. So we cannot say. There is always an element of unpredictability with respect to the popularity or the scoring potential of different optionals. Regardless of all these trends, regardless of all these popular optionals and the so-called, we can say these optionals are seasonal optionals. History has been consistently scoring. History has been consistently rewarding. That's why I can say proudly that history is an evergreen optional. It is an evergreen optional. No doubt about it. And the second popular myth about history is the syllabus is vast. Go through the UPSC website, look at the notification. Geography 2.5 or 2.5 or 3 pages. Anthropology maximum 4 pages. Political science 3 pages or so. Other options 2 pages, 2.5 pages. That's it. Whereas history syllabus runs for almost 7 pages, 6.5 to 7 pages. Such a vast syllabus. It is double to other size of the other options, or the triple the size of the other options. Why should we get burdened with this kind of heavy weight? It is unduly burdensome, unduly taxing, unduly demanding our time. This is the kind of impression that is created by looking at the syllabus. But in fact, it is a visual deception. I can say that it is a visual deception. Instead of giving the headings of the topics, what UPSC has chosen to do is, it elaborated all the subtopics and all the subcomponents of each subtopic. In that fashion, the syllabus is made to look like big, made to look huge, that's it. If you take out all the subtopics, only keep the headings of each topic, it will also be sufficed, it will also be accommodated within 2 or 3 pages, that's it. Apart from that, I want to bring attention to one important fact. Instead of the vastness, compared to the old pattern of history syllabus, recently UPSC has truncated the syllabus of history. In fact, it omitted so many topics. Coming to the world history, look at the syllabus of world history. Earlier, we used to prepare world history starting from 1453 AD itself. In fact, it is the most accepted beginning of modern history. The occupation of Constantinople by the Turks has triggered so many forces and factors which logically ushered in the so-called modern age. After that, Renaissance, Reformation, geographical discoveries, Columbian exchange, 30 Years War, so many topics used to be there. Now look at the syllabus, all these topics are gone. The syllabus of world history starts with the topic called Enlightenment. Enlightenment is predominantly a late 17th century and mainly an 18th century phenomenon. So earlier we used to start from the middle of the 15th century. Now we are starting with 18th century. Almost more than 2 centuries were omitted. So much burden is gone already. So compared to the old syllabus, history syllabus is actually rationalized a bit. Only thing is, visually it is elaborated, it is visually vast, but in reality it is reasonable and it is completely rationalized. And another important myth about history is the level of difficulty. It is a difficult optional, it is a tough optional. It is very tough to satisfy the examiner in history optional. How? How can you say that it is difficult? Is it mathematics or physics or chemistry? Does history demand a specific expertise or special expertise like science subjects? It is a general subject. It is of a general nature. Anybody and everybody can read and understand history. Time and again, it has been proved throughout the decades that history has been chosen as an optional by aspirants from different academic backgrounds, from different streams, from engineering stream, from medicine stream, from sciences. So many people have taken this optional and became successful. Facts are there. I have seen so many of my friends who came from BTech and MBBS background who have chosen history as an optional and became successful in the end. So history is always rewarding to those who are dedicated to the subject. In fact, it is very easy to read, very easy to comprehend, very easy to understand, and very easy to write also. In fact, it is very easy to impress the evaluator also. So there are so many positive aspects, but the accusation of being a difficult subject is not true. That is another false myth popularized by so many people, including the old aspirants. And the fourth myth is, history requires a lot of memory power. You should have a photographic memory to remember all those names, all the names of those battles, names of those treaties, names of those places. Oh, it is so taxing on your brain. It is really taxing on your memory. But look at the pattern of the mains examination. Names, places, treaties, battles. We don't require all the data for mains examination. For only preliminary examination, you have to go through No one is excused for that. Even other optional people are also supposed to go through this ordeal for preliminary examination. But coming to mains, most of the questions are always conceptual. Most of the questions are almost conceptual. Occasionally, you might come across a question which mainly requires a lot of data. If you are not comfortable with that kind of data, you can leave it in choice. But most of the scoring questions, most of the questions which really attract the evaluator and give you a lot of score are about concepts. Most of the important questions are conceptual questions. Look at the recent trend of history optional. Most of the questions are conceptual only. So the so-called myth of memorizing so much data is also not true. And there is another aspect with related to controversies, or the so-called ideological orientation. So history is very slippery. There are Marxist historians are there, rightist historians are there, nationalist historians are there, different kinds of schools of historiography are there. How to satisfy? We don't know. What kind of evaluator will be evaluating our script? If you write something very offensive to his opinions or contrary to his opinions, that might jeopardize our result. There are so many concerns related to this. And very recently, there are certain apprehensions about the so-called saffronization. We come across, we are listening so many things. School textbooks are being rationalized. Certain topics are deliberately omitted from the syllabus. And people are saying that there is an anti-Muslim tinge in the syllabus, and Mughals are removed, and Delhi Sultans are looked down upon. There are so many things that are going on in the outside world. But as far as UPSC is concerned, we can say that there is nothing like saffronization, there is nothing like anti-Muslim tinge. Look at the syllabus or look at the question papers. In the recently held mains general studies examination, there is a beautiful about the religious syncretism of Akbar. What are the spiritual eclecticism of Kabir? There have been constantly questions on Alauddin Khilji, Sher Shah and Akbar. Time and again there have been questions on these people. Earlier there used to be questions on these people, now also the same case. Nothing changed actually. Only recently we regularly come across one or two questions related to religion. Discuss about the classes and the types and the features of Vedic pantheon or the Vedic gods. Discuss the contribution of Acharya triumvirate to Indian Vedanta. Puranas are innovative literature that were trying to revive or glorify Vedic culture. Discuss. These kinds of questions are there. But the thing is, they were always there. They were always there. Religion is very much part of history. Maybe earlier socio-economic aspects are given a lot of emphasis, and occasionally there used to be a question on religious movements. Buddhism, Jainism always there, Bhakti movement is always there, Shankaracharya is always there. It is not a novelty. Only now we feel that. Now we choose to look at it with a lot of suspicion. Oh, this question is definitely from that perspective only. It's not so. Because that is not reflected in the question paper. There is a beautiful analytical question on Aurangzeb. The religious approach of Aurangzeb reflects the political pressure of contemporary times. It is such a beautiful analytical question on Aurangzeb. Very recently it is given in your mains optional. So there is nothing like anti-Muslim thing or the so-called saffronization as far as UPSC is concerned. So you need not bother about these ideological concerns and all those things. Okay. Coming to the advantages of the history optional, obviously you all know it is very useful in your GS preparation. In the GS first paper, obviously 75 marks are allocated outright for history segment. Be it history and culture of India or be it history of world, 75 marks are allocated for history. Apart from that, preparation of history is also beneficial to answer questions from problems of society, social problems, the segment of social problems. So to answer in a comprehensive fashion questions related to social problems, you have to have a proper historical background. Without understanding the historical root of a problem, you cannot discuss the topic. So for any topic, historical background is a must. And there are also questions related to various thinkers, ideologues, and great people who influenced the currents of Indian history or world history. So those things were also covered in your preparation of history optional. And international relations, there is a lot of overlapping between international relations and your world history syllabus. In fact, UPSC has given a lot of emphasis to post-Cold War era politics in world history syllabus, which is directly related to the segment of international relations. It is foundational to international relations. The proper reading of world history syllabus, you will be in a better position to answer the questions related to international relations in a very, very satisfying manner. So reading history is very much beneficial for all these segments. And there is another important aspect of the sphere, that is your general essay. You cannot escape history in general essay too. Every year there are 1 or 2 essays related to history and culture. There would be a question, should be a question, you cannot escape it. It is there. And with the proper preparation, you can write those essays in a very, very beautiful fashion. Take my case. I wrote an essay on composite culture of India and I scored 80%. Sounds incredible, but it is true. I scored 80%. In those days, I got 160 out of 200, which was supposed to be a record with UPSC. And some of the faculty members, senior faculty members asked me to give them a copy of that essay. I wrote again that essay and gave it to them. So always I used to score at least 120 plus in essay out of 200. And suddenly I got 160 also, because it is my pet topic, composite culture of India. So history is so beneficial in your essay writing. Apart from history and culture related essays, for other essays also, historical knowledge is essential. It is foundational for any topic. Take any topic, after introduction, invariably you will be compelled to write about the historical roots of the topic, historical background of the topic from the second paragraph itself. That is the standard structure of a general essay. So with proper reading of history, you will score well in general essay paper too. So the acquisition of the so-called vastness of the syllabus is actually helpful. The so-called vastness of the syllabus is really benefiting to you, really rewarding. If you go through that vast syllabus, it is really beneficial. So don't think that you are reading just optional. You are preparing for general studies paper 1 segment and other aspects related to social problems and great people and thinkers, and also it is useful for general essay. Whatever you read in history optional, it is useful for other segments too. So this is about history optional. I want to emphasize one important point with respect to your preparation or writing of the answers. So most of the times, people who are complaining that history is not that scoring, it is not that rewarding, they are forgetting one important thing. Actually, what they are writing in the examination, what kind of questions they are choosing, or what kind of answers they are giving to those chosen questions, that is the most important thing. First, most of the aspirants don't understand the question properly. Most of the aspirants don't give the apt answers, suitable answers to the given question. They write something about the topic and they expect good score. How can it be possible? First, you have to understand the question and reflect on the question and organize the material in your mind and try to write it in a very precise and beautiful manner in the examination conditions. Once you write that kind of answer, you will get more score, no doubt about it. But without going through this kind of exercise, you randomly throw some information at the answer and you expect good score and you get disappointed. You are bound to get disappointed. And you simply blame that history is not that scoring, it is very tough. There is a method, there is a manner in which history should be approached. You should know that method, you should know that manner, how to read and how to write. That is very, very essential. Those things should be taken care of in this coaching program. How to read history, how to think about history, and how to write history. These 3 segments, these 3 important essential aspects will be taken care of in my program. So I want to emphasize one important point. While writing answers, most of the aspirants adopt a kind of a simplistic approach. They present a simplistic narrative instead of a nuanced narrative. Let me explain a bit about this so-called simplistic narrative and the nuanced narrative. With simplistic narrative, you are bound to fail. For example, recently I evaluated a paper about Vedic polity. That aspirant was writing about Vedic polity, and he mentioned that during the Rigvedic times, the kingship was based on the principle of election. So it was a great democratic practice, and he mentioned that, and he moved to other things. But the thing is, this is a simplistic narrative. If you go through the text of Rig Veda, if you go through the different sources related to Rig Veda, different textbooks, different sources, you come across other important things too. Definitely there is the principle of election with respect to kingship, no doubt about it. Apart from that, we also have instances where kingship was passed in the same family for 2 or 3 generations. There was also an instance of a principle of inheritance applied in the case of kingship. The first and the most popular example is the example of the case of Divodasa and Sudasa. Divodasa was the grandfather, Sudasa was the grandson. Both were kings. Divodasa killed Sambara. Divodasa was the king of the first generation, and Sudasa was the king of the third generation, who became the winner of the battle of 10 kings or Dasaraja Yuddham. So obviously there are references to both kinds of principles. Principle of election is there, principle of inheritance was also there. So we have to write that there were divergent approaches to kingship. On one hand, we come across instances of election of a king. On the other, we also have instances of principle of inheritance with respect to kingship. So that is called the nuanced approach. You have to present the fine details. You have to distinguish between the details. Right? So this is called the nuanced approach. And I will give another popular example. Most of the times, most of the aspirants write, when they write about the later Vedic age, they simply mention that iron technology played a very crucial role in the evolution of later Vedic culture. The application of iron technology to agriculture, suddenly it bloomed a lot. With this kind of agricultural development, which led to urbanization. So that kind of blanket statements are given. We have to be very, very careful. Definitely later Vedic Aryans are familiar with iron technology, no doubt about it. But we should know that, we should mention that, that iron technology is not applied to agriculture in a significant fashion. Look at the archaeological data that is available from the so-called PGW sites or the painted graveyard sites. Most of the archaeological finds are weapons only, spearheads, arrowheads, etc. There are no sickles, there are no plowshares. If there are no sickles and there are no plowshares, how can you ascertain that iron technology is adapted to agriculture and which led to the urbanization? That was an extreme statement. What we have to write is, though iron was familiar, though iron technology was mastered by these people, it was not that popular with respect to agriculture, as is evident from the archaeological data. Only towards the end of the later Vedic times, slowly iron began to be adapted to agriculture, leading to agricultural surplus, leading to the primitive towns like Kausambi, that's it. Only towards the end of the later Vedic age, maybe very slowly. So the social evolution was occurring at a very, very slow fashion. For sake of examination, we cover thousands of years of history in a matter of few hours. But you have to visualize that historical change was happening in a very, very slow fashion. In a very, very slow fashion. Thousands and hundreds of years will take for a particular change to take place. Right? We should have be that nuanced to satisfy the evaluator. So, simplistic narrative doesn't pay in the mains examination. Especially with respect to history, you have to adopt a nuanced approach. And regarding the so-called ideological orientations and the controversies or the risk involved in answering certain questions, you have to be little tactful. And there is also, there is an apprehension, there is a kind of misconception that the books of Ramala Thapar and R.C. Sharma became outdated because government is not happy with Ramala Thapar, because the so-called right-wing ecosystem was trying to brand her as intellectual terrorist and she was criticized as an anti-national. But UPSC doesn't look at her that kind of perspective. In 2022, 2022, there was a question in history optional, that is Ashoka's Dhamma was not only trying for moral uplift, and social harmony, but also extension of state authority. That is, Ashoka's Dhamma is used as an imperial tool too. Who was the historian that for the first time put forward this thesis? Ashoka's Dhamma was treated as a form of Buddhism, according to R.C. Majumdar, D.R. Bhandarkar, R.K. Mukherjee. All the old historians treated Ashoka's Dhamma as nothing but Buddhism. But Rumala Thapar changed all this. She was the person who put forward this theory that Ashoka's Dhamma was an imperial tool. Apart from all these positive virtues or apparent positive virtues, there is an imperial ambition. There is an attempt at political integration in a very, very peaceful manner. It is an imperial tool. So that was the thesis proposed and popularized by Rumala Thapar. In that book of Upendra Singh, she also mentions this in a very cursory manner. According to R. Thapar, Dhamma was also supposed to be an imperial tool. Dedicates a small paragraph to that and leave it at that. If you don't read Rumala Thapar's book, how can you answer this kind of question? That was there in 2022, very recently. In the last mains optional, there is another question. The dynamics of social mobility of early medieval India is a complex interplay of caste hierarchies, economic transformation, religious legitimation, and political patronage. Assess these factors in the reconfiguration of early medieval society. That was a question given in the very recently held mains history optional examination. Where do you find this kind of analysis? In the book of Rumala Thapar and R.S. Sharma. And Upendra Singh draws heavily from these two books, and along with these two books, she also draws from various other important historical sources. No doubt about it. So, I am not against Upendra Singh's book. Go through that. It is very useful for prelims. For mains, along with Upendra Singh, you have to go through these books also. These are time tested. Rumala Thapar and R.S. Sharma books are essential for ancient India. So, Upendra Singh actually sometimes she chooses to ignore certain important facts. Coming to Vedic culture, she chooses to ignore to refer to Gogna. Gogna is a very popular term, popularized by so many historians. A lot of emphasis is given to this by R.S. Sharma and others. Gogna means cow killer. Guest is called as Gogna. So clearly they were killing cattle and they were eating. It is a prized dish, a popular dish on important occasions because Gogna is that only. But it is not an invention of R.S. Sharma, it is there. And it is there in Panini's Ashtadhyayi, which is a standard book even for Sanskrit learners today. Most conservative people are obsessed with Panini's Ashtadhyayi even today. It is there in Panini's Ashtadhyayi. But she chooses to ignore that. Instead, she mentions cow as Aganya, not to be killed. Definitely that phrase was also there. Because of the economic importance, it is also treated as Aganya, not to be killed. What should we do? We have to be little tactful. We have to draw from these two sources and synthesize it in our answer. Cow was central to their economy. Cow was obviously killed on important occasions in the name of sacrifices or satisfying a guest as evidenced by the term Gogna. And because of its economic importance, they also treated it as Aganya, not to be killed. That's it. Gogna is there, Aganya is there. You got the comprehensive picture. So, what I am trying to emphasize is that Upendra Singh is not simply the whole book, the most important book. Along with Upendra Singh, you have to go through the standard books of Rumala Thapar and R.S. Sharma too, even today. They are not irrelevant, they are still relevant, right? So, coming to the coaching program that we are designing here, The history optional program is going to be started very soon, most probably from December first week itself. It will run for 6 months. Within a span of 6 months, I am going to complete the entire syllabus in a very, very comprehensible manner. Each word that is given in your syllabus will be completed, will be covered in a very, very detailed manner in 360 degrees. After the completion of the syllabus, after 6 months, you will be in a position to answer any damn question. Any level of tough question will also be answered in a very, very comfortable manner. Once you prepare, once you complete this program, it is going to be here. That much I can say. Not only just teaching, here we are going to conduct a test program. For those who enrolled in this program will be given free access to this test program also. Every day there will be a question. Not simple and straight and direct questions. Questions which will be almost up to the standard set by the UPSC. Questions, tricky questions, elusive questions, complex questions will be given. Each day you are compelled to write a question here itself. And that will be evaluated here itself on a one-to-one basis, on a very personal basis. And what was your main lacuna in that answer? What are the mistakes committed by you? Whether there is a lacuna of content, whether there is a defective expression is there, where wrong expression is there, when the tone is, what kind of tone you are giving to the presentation, whether it should be toned down or it should be rationalized a bit. All these things will be taken care of during that coaching program. So imagine yourself, each day one question, and after 6 months, how many questions you might have answered and what kind of confidence you might have at the end of this program. That much I want to say. Pledge your passion, pledge your discipline and dedication to this program. I promise your success. You are bound to succeed. You are bound to succeed. You are bound to score more than 300 plus, period. Provided you are dedicated, you are disciplined, you are passionate about the subject. This is my humble promise. Thank you very much.